services on EigenLayer, and the tool that we're going to be using to do so is called Waves. Waves is essentially a framework for building EigenLayer AVSs that just makes the whole process a lot easier. And if you go to the Waves benefits in their documentation, they list out 4 main points. First of all, it's around flexibility. You can add, update, or manage components dynamically without having to coordinate upgrades with an entire operator set. Number 2, simplified development, where you can really focus more on your business logic and not the underlying infrastructure. Next is around multi-chain support, so you can operate across multiple blockchain networks. And finally, it's around composability, where you can kind of compose multiple services together to build out more complex applications, I guess you could say. Now, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be starting with the initial boilerplate that Waves gives you when you create a new project. It's a price oracle. And then we're going to be modifying that to be a sports oracle, something like a prediction market might use. And the way that we're going to be doing this is through vibe coding, through Claude Code. And I'm going to be providing the prompt that will do so. So we're going to look at the files, understand how it works, and then we're going to basically vibe code a new version of the oracle to be a sports oracle. And this should be a good exercise because you can learn about Waves, learn how to build with Waves, and even learn how to modify and build your own idea just through natural language. So with that being said, let's jump right in our terminal and start writing some code. So here I am in my terminal. What I want to do is go to the Waves documentation to where we can say create your own project. And obviously before you get here, you might want to go to the system setup and make sure that you have both Docker as well as Foundry installed on your machine. Once you do so, we can run forge init, and this is going to initialize a new project using their boilerplate. And what I can call this is Waves Sports Oracle. And then once this is created, we can go ahead and open this up in our text editor. And we'll dive into the code in just a moment. But for now, let's look at the documentation to see the rest of the setup. So I'm going to run through this and go down here to make setup, where we have a make file with a few different commands that we can run. After we run make setup, we're going to go back to the docs and we're going to go here to build and test components. The 2 commands that we're going to be running are make wasi build and make wasi execute, or make wasi exec. So here I can run make wasi build, and this will go ahead and build out the project. And now that the build is complete, I can run make wasi exec. And here we can kind of see the result of this price oracle, where we get a price feedback for BTC. So what we're going to do now is dive into the code and kind of understand a little bit about how this is going, or what's going on here. Now, if we look at the code, there's quite a bit going on, but like a lot of starter projects or just really reference architectures, there's quite a bit of boilerplate, and there's really only 2 main files that we truly need to focus on to get started understanding what's going on. The first is going to be components /eth price oracle /src /lib.rus or lib.rs. And then there's basically 2 functions here that we're going to really need to dive into. And then the second file is going to be the make file. The make file just has all of the different commands that are set along with any hard-coded variables. So checking out lib.rs, we have this main function here called run, and then we also have this get price feed function. And the run function essentially is calling this get price feed. And here you can kind of see that we have some arguments that are being passed in. And really the one thing that we want to get is the ID for the, I would say, token that we want to get the price for. So the price feed oracle is essentially taking in a token ID, and then we use that ID to kind of get the price. And you go down here, you can kind of see that this get price feed function is essentially just calling the CoinMarketCap API and passing in the ID. Now, if we go to the make file here and we look for wasi exec, we can kind of see the command that's being passed on here. And the one thing that we have hard-coded right now is the coin market cap ID. And this is number 1 for Bitcoin. So if we go here and we want to change this to, say, number 2, we can run this command again and then get a different price back. So here we see the symbol as BTC. Now we see the symbol as LTC. All right. So we kind of understand the basic stuff going on in this price oracle. What we want to do is we want to vibe code this to be a sports oracle so we can build something like a prediction market, for example. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to do 2 things. First of all, I'm going to provide the prompt that we're going to use. And this prompt is going to essentially copy a lot of the logic that we have in the ETH price oracle. And we're going to replace the ETH price oracle with this sports radar API that can then pass in a game ID. And then once we pass in the game ID, we can get the results of that game. And for our example, we're going to be working with the NCAA data. So what I can do is I'm going to go to my terminal and I'm going to just say Claude. And this is basically Claude Code. You can install it by running npm install-g. I forgot exactly, but it's something like Claude Code. You can Google it and find the command. And once you have it installed, you can just run Claude from your terminal. Okay, cool. So we have Claude open, and we're going to now just run this prompt. And we're going to walk through to kind of understand what's going on here. I'm going to tell Claude that I want to create a similar oracle to the ETH price oracle at component/ETH price oracle, but I want to use the Sport Radar API. I want to set and reference the Sport Radar API key from the makefile. So this way we kind of hard code the API key there. I then pass in the request parameters so that the project understands how to format the URL and what type of headers to pass in. So we're calling like api.sportradar.com. We're passing in the game ID and we're passing in the API key. Next, I also describe what I want my execute command to look like. And basically, I want it to be calling the WASM sports score oracle. And I want to pass in 2 values. Number 1, the game ID, and then number 2, the sports radar API key. And then I also provide it with the basic command that I want to be able to run myself. So I don't want to have to pass in the API key every time. I just want to pass in the game ID because the API key is going to already be hard-coded in the makefile. And then finally, I give an example of the response data. So Claude and my project kind of understands the schema of this data that's coming back. And I say I only want to return the home team, the away team, the home score, the away score, and the status values. So this is a pretty, nice long prompt, probably, especially with this data here, making it much longer. But I can go here to where we have raw. I can copy this. And I'm going to now open my terminal. I'm just going to paste it right here. And then I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to try to walk through all of these different prompts from Claude Code. All right, so first it's going to ask to create the folder. We're going to say yes. Next, it's going to create cargo.toml. Next, it's going to create trigger.rs. Next, it's going to create our sports oracle version of lib.rs. Now, this is our main logic of our new component, so we're going to definitely dive into that and check it out in just a moment. We're going to create bindings.rs. We're going to modify the makefile to set up our Sport Radar API key. We're going to edit the makefile to add our new execute command, scores-exec. We're going to update the README to show how this works. Another update to the README. All right, and it looks like it's made all of the modifications. So the next thing we want to do is to go ahead and test this out. So what we want to do is we want to set the Sport Radar API key in our makefile. So here we have the Sport Radar API key setting. And what I can do is I can go to Sport Radar here. I can go to the console where I've set everything up for the NCAA API key, and I can go ahead and copy this to the clipboard, and I will go ahead and paste this here. All right, so we've set the API key. The next thing I want to do is run make build. So I'll go ahead and split this up. We'll run make build. And then finally, let's go ahead and test this out by calling make squares exec and passing in a game ID. So what you can do on this Sport Radar API is you can go to the daily schedule and put in like a date, and it'll give you like all the games. And the game ID I got is from the NCAA like semifinals and Final Four. This is going to be Duke versus Houston. So if I go here to my terminal and I put in this game ID and we hit enter, we should test this out and see if it works. All right, boom, it looks like it worked. We got the result back. Duke Blue Devils, Houston Cougars, home score 67, away score 70. So what we've done is vibe coded a brand new component, and it only took us a couple of minutes. I'm pretty pumped and excited about how you can build and write code in this fashion these days. I've been doing a lot with it, and I would like to kind of do even more with it. So this is really cool to me. Now, if we go to our new folder in components, we can go to our lib.rs, and we see we have a similar kind of layout where we have this run function, and then we have this get game scores function. And we see that we have our Sport Radar API. It's literally just written all this for us, and it just works perfectly. I think it's incredible. So I think that's kind of it for this example. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push this code up to GitHub. I'm going to link to the prompt. I'm going to link to everything we talked about. And I will say a call to action. If you want to build cool stuff on EigenLayer, definitely reach out to us. Check out all the different platforms like Waves that are out there that really kind of lower the barrier to entry to building. And I'm excited and looking forward to see what you build in the future. Thanks for watching.